Well, welcome back, everyone, to Westside Community Schools Technology Area 66 Declassified podcast. And I am Dr. Paul Lindgren, the Director of Technology for the district, and we also have with me Matt. Want to introduce yourself, Matt?
Yep, I'm Dr. Matt Lee, Coordinator of Technology Integration for the district.
And we also have Greg with us.
Hey, good morning, fellas. My name is Dr. Greg Betts, and I am the Director of Professional Learning for Westside.
So we think we have an interesting episode here for you today, where we have a wide variety of things that we'll be discussing and sharing with you about things that are coming up, both in the district and outside of the district as far as technology, and just some tips for you and some sites, and just a lot of things that we think you'll find interesting. Matt, do you want to first of all talk a little bit about NETA and NETA applications?
Sure, yeah. One of the kind of the biggest tech conferences to come to the state is NETA, and every year we have a wealth of staff members that want to attend. NETA this year is coming up on April 21st and 22nd down at the CenturyLink Center, and there are just a ton of sessions going on. And so if you go to netasite.org, you can take a look at the different sessions. You can search by day, at a glance, lots of different topics. There's strands for library media, there's strands for one-to-one, there's strands for different content areas. So no matter what your kind of role is, there's going to be some topics and sessions that interest you. We'd love to send everybody, but unfortunately that's not possible. And so what we've come up with to try to figure out the most equitable way to figure out who from the district gets to attend NETA is if you check your building conference folder, we've put together an application to attend. And so the application looks like this. And what we're asking you to do is just take a moment and fill this out. And it'll ask you to do two things. The first thing that the application asks you to do is to actually go to that website that I just showed, and there's the direct link here, and just take a moment, and if you think you're interested in attending, look through what the sessions are. I said there's lots of stuff, there's something for everybody, but look through and see if you can identify a couple sessions that really kind of trip your trigger, that really would make this a huge opportunity for you and for your students by having you go. And then just tell us about them. We're not looking for an essay here. We just want to know, is there a couple sessions here? Who are the presenters? And what do you hope to gain by going to that session? How will it benefit your students by having you there? So that's the first part. Look through, find something that's interesting, and kind of tell us about it a little bit. And then the second part to the application is we just want you to know that we're going to have an expectation of you. If you get to go down to NETA, we want you to be able to share out what you know. Since we can't send everybody, we want to really kind of leverage the people that go into teaching other people about their experiences at NETA. So we're just going to have you acknowledge here that if you go to NETA, that you're going to you're willing and able to, and you will write a short summary, a couple paragraphs, kind of either items that impressed you about NETA, so like top apps, interesting topics, websites, tools, that sort of thing that you found, or maybe just kind of a reflection about what did you learn, how is this going to impact you, kind of the key takeaways from the conference. So we'll have you acknowledge that you're willing to do that, and then within a couple weeks of the end of NETA, get that sent in to me, and then I'll make a posting on Area 66 and mail it out, so that everybody, regardless of whether they got to go or not, can kind of read and experience and learn from the things that you learned when you were down at the CenturyLink at the end of April at the NETA conference. So that's kind of our big push. The applications are out right now for you to fill out, and we do ask that everybody fills these out, whether or not you've been accepted to present, or you've gone before or haven't gone before. We're just saying let's have everybody fill out this application, and then we'll get a chance to take a look at them. If I remember right, Dr. Betts, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we're saying we want those sent in to me by February 26th?
Yeah, that'll give us enough time to go through all of the applications, and part of that selection process is looking at funding and the amount of subs that we would have to bring in. And Matt, I really liked when you said about, how can we leverage the people that go to NETA, because as a district we continue to build that focus on building capacity for all of our teachers, and we have a lot of great teachers in our district, and it's just really good to continue to fill their buckets and have them bring back all of the good things that they're learning on how to improve student learning.
Yeah, and I mean, I would make the plug. I would encourage, if you haven't gone to NETA before, definitely fill out the application, because it is an amazing experience. You can see here that, the NETA conference, we have over 190 sessions going on, including breakouts, hands-on. We're going to have a makerspace there. So all of all of Thursday afternoon, we're going to have a makerspace in the ballroom where you can go and have hands-on time playing with drones, playing with, makey-makeys. We'll have a representative from
Makeys?
Makey-makeys, yes.
What's a makey-makey?
A makey-makey is it's a kit where you can hook up different items to control your computer. So kids can learn to program and make circuits, and you can go and actually have like bananas and fruit and, pop bottle caps all be conductors and input devices for the computer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so the makerspace is really focused on hands-on type things, spheros, drones, I said the makey-makeys, circuit kits, things that 3D printers, 3D scanners, virtual reality, all that kind of hands-on stuff that we're going to have there. We started it last year, it worked out really well, and we're going to be continuing that again this year. And of course, we have a great vendor hall with lots of vendors where you can go and see kind of the latest and greatest of educational technology. So I encourage everybody, whether or not you've gone before, if you're interested, check your building conference folders. You'll see the application from us. Take a look at the website, fill it out, and then get that sent in to me by the 26th, and we'll get back to people shortly after that with, our decisions about how many people we can send, and, we'll get that information sent out to you.
And that, in case I don't make it to the makey-makey, I am really curious about how you get a banana to help run your computer. So if you're in there when that's happening, please get a photo and put that out on Twitter.
Sure thing.
All right, thanks.
Hey, I'm going to jump in and say that if people have been to NETA, if they went to NETA last year, they're automatically members. Is that correct, Matt?
That is correct, yep.
And if you do go, you should be getting a newsletter in the mail, either email or printed copy. I think there's an option, or does everybody get the printed one if they're an actual member?
If you went to NETA last year, you're a member that will get the paper newsletter. And we did open up free membership this year, and I know several of our staff members signed up to become free members, and your newsletter should be coming via email.
Okay. One thing I will say that on that NETAsite.org, the organization NETA really is run by some great leadership, and now is the time when elections are taking place for both president-elect and some NETA board positions. Is that correct? And perhaps a secretary position as well. If you are a NETA member, whether even just the free member or you've attended in the last year, go check that out and check out the elections for leadership and exercise your best judgment on. If you have any questions, if you don't know the people, we'd be happy to give you some background on it. But use your right as a member to go ahead and express your view on leadership. So there's a really good candidate for president that I would endorse. So.
And I would second that, Dr. Lindgren.
Well, thank you, guys. Yep, it looks like we have the president-elect position open this year, secretary, and then 4 directors.
So we're not telling you to vote for any candidate, but
we're not telling you to vote for Matt, but he is on the ballot, and it'd be worth looking into.
Yeah. Not everyone, as Matt said, gets to go to NETA, but there is an opportunity on Saturday, March 19th, called EdCamp Omaha, and do we have a site to put that up? I believe it's at the
It's
Community Engagement Center.
It is, and the website is edcampomaha.wikispaces.com.
Okay, so it is from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. at that Community Engagement Center, the new building on UNO's campus. And the thing that's really neat about EdCamp is that it's sometimes called an unconference. They come in and everybody gets together, and there's a big board with there's no preset session schedule. People just come in and they get to the board and they grab a slot and they come in and they put a title of a session on, and the schedule gets generated on the spot. And so it's really an opportunity for a real free-flowing discussion that you can come and just don't cost and can attend and just sit in the back and learn, discuss, or if you really feel up to it, come prepared to come with a title and go lead a session and get some experience there too. So it's a great, real kind of low entry point way to get some great training and then also have an opportunity to get some experience in presenting as well.
Yeah, and I would add, it's a really fun time. It's a Saturday morning. You go out to UNO, and you get to meet, educators from across the city and even out of state that come in and, participate in this. And, just to reiterate what Paul said, there's no agenda set ahead of time. You don't know what you're going to be learning until you get there and you see the board, and it's literally a board that people write on with sessions that they want to present. So it's kind of a cool concept. Have either of you been before?
I have gone once, I believe, perhaps twice. I think I've gone twice. It's a really interesting experience.
And I have just lived through both of you through those experiences, so I have yet to actually physically attend.
Okay, guys, I'm going to make an executive decision here. I think that our segment A, I think we're going to have to pass on that. If we continue at this pace, we're going to have an hour and a half long podcast. So I think we're going to have to leave our NETA discussion and EdCamp and skip segment A and just go on, because I think our next discussion would probably just end up making our podcast too long. So we'll save that for another time.
Now, I do have a question here, Paul.
Yes.
So help me out here. I got an email that said all I need to do is help out this individual, send him my bank account number, and help him transfer some money, and I will be rich because he will give me part of that money back. Is that something I should be doing, or have you done that before?
Oh yes, Matt. We've done that many times.
No, that's kind of a facetious lead-in here, but I think you do have some advice for people about how to stay safe on email and over the internet.
Yes, this is a really kind of a prime time of the year, tax season, where there's a lot of emails related to tax scams, refund scams, emails that are going out asking for, they're portraying themselves as, we need to verify your email account. Would you please give us your phone number and your login and your password, and would you send that back to us in email? And many of these look very sophisticated, where they appear to be coming from the IRS or TurboTax, or trying to make them look like they're coming from Westside.Technology support. None of those entities, including us, will ever send you an email saying that we need to verify your password and we need you to send it to us. That's just really a bad idea. So we've in the past few months, we've had a couple of different times where we've had things come in on the weekends where people have asked for that kind of information, and people let us know when that happens, and then we're able to send out specific warnings about the specific phishing threats, is what those are called. But they've become very sophisticated. We want you to be really careful to not ever send any kind of personal information via email at the request of someone like that. You can always call us if you have a question, or email us, and then we can evaluate. But really, we're not going to ever ask you for your password, because either we know it or we can change it to something else if we need to and let you know. So we would never need to ask you what the password is. So.
And I would just reiterate, anytime you have questions, it doesn't hurt to ask. It's better to ask and, get told, yeah, do this or don't do this, than to accidentally do it and then have to go through the process of, getting that information changed later on.
Yeah, we really would just like you to be skeptical about things that come in via email, or some of the scams come in via phone now too, and asking you to give information on the phone, and they can sound very, very believable, but none of those major entities are really going to contact you that way and ask for personal information. If someone's coming to you, be very skeptical. Go to them is the best way if you really need help with something. So.
Well, I think the next thing we wanted to talk about a little bit was the district's push for soliciting student responses. Is that right, Dr. Betts?
Yes, and continuing with our theme this year on eliciting student responses, we have not focused a lot on how to leverage technology to help with that. So I think we'll take the next few minutes to talk about some different programs and apps out there to engage students via technology.
Yeah, and this, I'll be honest, this whole thing started when I was, checking Twitter during the snow day that we had this week, and I came across this graphic that was tweeted out by Tony Vincent. And, Kahoot and Quizzes, if you haven't heard of those two, are kind of the two new up-and-coming apps or websites, so to speak, that deal with collecting student responses. So throwing out a question, getting students to respond and send back. And they're kind of the new players on the block, but I didn't want us to forget about some of the old standbys that we've been using for a while of Socrative and Google Forms, because I think all four of those big players really have some advantages to use, in the classroom for teachers. Let me come
Imagine,
here.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, just talk about Kahoot. The Kahoot does have the colors and the symbols, where some of the other programs do not. And just knowing your audience, like who are the students in your class, and if they're younger, maybe the shapes are easier than some of the questions. And
yeah, and if we look here, that was the big thing that Tony Vincent pointed out here, that Kahoot, when the kids log into it, they have to look up at the screen to see the questions, and then they look at their device and they see the symbols and the colors. And for some kids that might be good because they just have to click on the colors. For others though, you got to know your students. If the process of having to look at the screen and then look at their device with a time limit on it, if that's too complicated for them, then they're going to get too distracted by the technology, and you're not truly going to get to assess where they're at with the learning. If we take a look here, oops, sorry guys, and we take a look here, one of my favorites that I think people have kind of forgotten about for a while is Socrative. And I really like Socrative because it kind of combines all the other different apps together. But for me, I enjoy it because it goes a step further. Because when you use Socrative, not only can you do the games and use it like a replacement for a clicker, have students take tests or quizzes on it, use it as kind of a bell ringer type introductory sponge activity. What I like about Socrative is you can actually download the students' responses from it in an Excel spreadsheet, and you can actually get some basic item analysis done on it. So if you have students take a self-paced quiz, you could download it, see how they did, and then know when you need to go back and reteach different items, or if you can advance further because kids have shown mastery of different concepts. And it's fun, it's easy to set up. If you're working in a team-type atmosphere, you can even have one person make the quiz and share it with a co-teacher, and then that co-teacher can go ahead and use that same quiz in their class, so you can create some common formative and summative assessments with it. Quizzes, we kind of alluded to, is a newer one where it'll put the questions up on the kids' or the students' devices, and you can share and create quizzes here. My one concern about quizzes is kind of by default, it has little fun graphics that pop up when the students get questions right or wrong. And depending on the age level of the students that you're using it with, those may or may not be appropriate, and they could cause some distractions, depending on how your students are. And then kind of the last big one of the commercial types is the Kahoot. And Greg, were you saying you used Kahoot, or you have lots of teachers using Kahoot?
Yes, especially in the elementary, because it has like some fun music, and it's pretty visually gets you more engaged than maybe Socrative does, and at the same time, it's maybe not as robust as Socrative.
So it's kind of more of a lightweight, quick, let's do this as a warm-up bell ringer type activity, or just an end of the lesson check for understanding type, rather than a more robust formative feedback tool.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can collect data from your Kahoot quiz and download that into an Excel file. I mean, so there is that part too. However, most of the teachers I know that use it more for just a quick retrieval practice or closure at the end of a lesson.
And I would agree. I think all of these have, Kahoot, quizzes, Socrative. Oh, and then the one that I didn't mention was using Google Forms, which is kind of a one that's, maybe not as flashy or fancy as the others, but it's free, and it's something that, all teachers at Westside have access to.
That would be more of a do-it-yourself type system, correct?
Yes, definitely. It's more of a do-it-yourself, and what the teachers would do is create a Google form, and then you can use an add-in called, I'm blanking. Flubaroo, yes, thank you. Yeah, use Flubaroo to actually go through and grade that, and then get the item analysis on the spreadsheet, and then it'll actually go through and give you a nice little listing of how your kids did and highlight any questions that were outliers on it. But like you said, Paul, that it's definitely a kind of a do-it-yourself if you like to get in and mess with the nitty-gritty of it and go with it. Forms is a little bit more involved, but it is an option there for people.
You have more control anytime and more responsibility anytime you build it yourself. So.
Yeah. So I think the big takeaway for me is that we have lots and lots of options of ways that technology can be leveraged in the classroom for getting student responses back. But for me, the advantage comes is when you can go and look at all of these different tools and get a chance to just play with them. If you're working with a co-teacher, if you're working on a team, if you're working in a PLC, play with it. Take 5-10 minutes and set up a quiz in Kahoot. Go on quizzes and set something up. Go into Socrative. All of these are really quick and easy, free for teachers to log in and create. Just try it. Set up some sample questions, and as a group, play with it. Have one person make it, have the other people pretend to be students. Go through and just try and figure out what works best for you. This isn't something where it's a one-size-fits-all where we say you must use Socrative because it's the best, or you have to just use Kahoot because it's the best. All of these work really, really well, but they all have their strengths and their weaknesses, and it's not until you get in there as a team that you're really going to find and discover what your preference is for how your students work best with it and how you as a teacher work best with it.
Matt, I would also say these all of them are pretty easy to get up and going and get your quiz loaded. So they're not cumbersome, they're easy to use, and it's just finding out which one works best for you.
Okay. Great, guys. That was great discussion, and thanks for showing all those. There was a couple of those I don't think I had ever even heard of or seen before, so thanks for keeping me up to date. As we kind of roll down our time here, one of the things we'd like to do is have each of us kind of give a pick of the week. Not that we'll do this every single week, but we just had a couple of things that we'd each found that we thought we would want to share. And I'll just start out. This is a website that we'll have show notes, right, Matt?
Yep, I'll put all of these links in these show notes. Yep.
But if you want to go to it right away, tinyurl.com, area66-01 is a short URL to go to it. But this is a website that's from in Illinois, the College of DuPage, and it's an interactive weather lab that I think is very impressive. In a previous life, I was an earth science teacher, and I would have students do an activity where we would give them a map with a data set of temperatures or pressure data, and then they would have to draw the lines on the weather maps. And that's probably a good experience for them to do once or twice, but after that, you'd want them to kind of work on getting the higher level concepts. And that's what this kind of interactive site can do, is using real live satellite imagery. And what you're seeing here is water vapor satellite imagery. The lightest color is actually where there's the most moisture in the air, and the darker is where there's least moisture in the air. And you can see that it's rolling through a loop, a repeating loop of the last couple hours. And down at the bottom, there's some cool things that you can turn on. Matt, would you go ahead and turn on the sea level pressure for me? In the second column there toward the top. So you may have done an activity in some meteorology class or in your life where you've gone and drawn the isobars for the pressures. This is does that for you using real live data. And then if we'd go ahead and turn on the wind vectors in the left column, Matt. If you guys remember from your meteorology, low pressure and high pressure systems, the wind tends to blow counterclockwise in toward the center of a low. And so given these two things, you could actually help students identify where a low pressure system is and a high pressure system is, and just from the wind directions and the pressure. Let's turn those off and just show me the temperature. Another thing we do is showing the thermoclines, or the temperature levels, and you can see the lines connecting the areas of temperature where we have high temperature and low temperature. So I think this is really a cool site because it is just so interactive, and that it's filled with live data. And if anybody wants to contact me off the side, I still am very interested in this kind of stuff, and be happy to talk with you and come up with some ideas of how you might use this with your students. So that's my previous life moment here, looking at the DuPage County Interactive Weather Lab site.
Very cool. Hey, Greg, I saw you had a kind of a cool pick. Do you want to talk about yours?
Sure. Real quick, you're starting to see these pop up quite a bit. It's called a Rode shotgun mic, and comes with a nice little filter here to help protect the mic, and a nice stabilizer. You can see that right there. So it helps if when you're filming or you need an external mic, it helps reduce some of that extra noise that comes on there. But super easy to use. You can buy like little attachments where this right here on the bottom just screws on, and I found it to be really useful and picks up great sound.
So what's the advantage of using something like that over just using the built-in mic on your iPad or your iPhone?
The built-in mic is really good on your iPad or iPhone, especially if you are doing close-up interviews with students or having students report some of their work. The advantage of this is if you're in a large room and you're trying to catch sound from multiple areas, it allows you to kind of focus in on where you want the sound to come from.
About how much does that cost, Greg?
I'd like to say I got this for maybe 80 or 85. I think they can go up. I mean, it just depends on what site that you look at. I think I got this from, the best deal I think I found on was Amazon, but kind of a little pricey, but it definitely delivers a high quality sound.
So that might be for somebody who's doing like a I'm trying to think like a classroom video cast or a newscast. They might talk to a community club or their department head, something like that, if they're going to actually be using it in those capacities.
Yes, absolutely.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited about...
What do you have to show us, Matt?
Well, I'm excited about mine here, and this is what I got. And no, it's not a clamp for doing woodworking. Rather, it is called the ShoulderPod S1 phone mount. And so this is what the box looks like. And what it is, it's a Steadicam and tripod mount for a phone. So if I take my iPhone here, I can slide it in, tighten it down, and it becomes, in this capacity, a Steadicam, where the base is actually weighted, and so if you hold on to it, it helps get you steady shots. But the reason why I got it is if you unscrew the base, then it has a tripod mount. And so if you have a tripod, you can just screw it in, and then you have your phone mounted on the tripod, which is really, really handy. I've used it if I've gone, and you can see here the website. It's just shoulderpod.com. And so you can mount it to the tripod, you can carry it around, and they have all different models. I got the most basic one here, the S1, which fits all of my needs. But they have it all the way up to, you can see here, this R1 Pro that is just this crazy modular type guy. But for me, the S1 works out well. And it's great, if you're going in videotaping interviews, like, Greg was saying with his microphone, that was really good for. This is really good because you can get right up close, set it on the tripod. I found for me the most surprising piece was the amount of difference that this little weight makes. I wouldn't have realized that having a weight on the bottom of the mount and holding it like that would make so much of a difference. I thought, it's fine holding it kind of like this, but it really does make a huge difference just to hold it right there. So
have you found that it takes your selfies, Matt, to a whole new level?
No, I haven't tried any selfies with it, but it does help with video. You can get some different angles because you're not having to hold it and worrying about covering up the camera, because you can just kind of hold it, so you can kind of do upside down or angles, and if you're walking around, it really just makes it kind of easier to hold. And it wasn't that expensive. Greg, what was it, like $25, $30 maybe?
It was. I think we got it for 25 or under.
25 or under, yeah. And you can check on Amazon; they have different deals on it too. But if you do a lot of filming with your phone, this happens to be a 6S Plus, and it fits. So if you have a 6, 6S, 5, pretty much any iPhone or Android phone is going to fit in on it. And I've been really happy with it.
Okay, thanks guys for sharing those things. One of our last things here is upcoming training opportunities. Matt, you want to tell us what's going on as far as activities out of Area 66?
Sure, yeah. If we take a look here at the screen, we've made some changes to our second semester training schedule. And so our next training that's coming up here is on February 16th, and it's iMovie Basics. So if you want to get better at using iMovie, come to that one. And I believe for this we're going to be focusing on using the computer for iMovie, so it's open to everybody. Coming up on March 1st, we're going to have web tips and tricks. And then one of the changes we made was now on March 15th, we replaced Google Earth with Google Sites. And so this will be kind of your last chance here. I'm sure most people know we're going through a website change, and Google Sites is one of the recommended replacements for classroom teachers to host their web pages on. So we thought we'd give you one more opportunity if you want help, if you just want to have a safe spot to come and work, and then if you have questions, have somebody here to ask them to and get help right on the spot. If you've never used Google Sites before and you want to go in and make your first classroom site, we're welcome for that. And so that'll be here. Actually, the location will probably be TBD, but we'll get that out there. If you're interested in learning more about Google Sites or any of the other training opportunities that we have, email Nancy Yount, and she will go ahead and get you registered for it.
And Matt or Paul, are you still going to do your session on how to use a selfie stick?
I think Paul said he was going to take that one, Selfie Stick 101. Wasn't that right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Very right.
Just checking.
Okay, well, thank you guys for coming in and doing this podcast again. Thanks to Matt for forcing us to do this every month or so. And thanks to Matt also for running the Google Hangout controls behind the scenes. We appreciate that. And
good work, Matt.
And Greg, thanks for joining us again. I know we won't always have the pleasure of having you on as our guest on these episodes, but we really enjoy it when you come on. So thank you so much. And any last words, guys?
Just remember, if someone asks you for your name and phone number, don't send it. Otherwise, you might get an email from Kim from our district in capital letters, and he does use some cool colors. So we're trying to avoid having Kim send those emails out. So that's kind of my final thoughts for the day.
Yeah, let's be careful out there, right?
That's right. Be careful in cyber world.
Okay, thanks, guys, and thank you all for joining us. And Matt, are we going to do another one in February, or is this this was supposed to be our February or January one?
Yeah, I think we're going to try to do one more here at the end of the month so we could keep up with our monthly schedule. So you might be getting a bonus episode here at the end of February.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And Matt will also be posting the show notes to the links. And just have a great start of the February, and hope you have a great month. Thanks.
All right, fellas. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Yep, thank you.